You're working with people from another culture, either in a multinational company or maybe on a multicultural team inside your own country, and something's not quite right. And you wonder, is it cultural or is it personal? This is a question that comes up every time I teach a class on how to understand, manage, and use cultural diversity. So in this video, we are going to look at 3 different factors you need to consider. We're going to look at the human nature that we all share, we'll look at personality, and we will look at culture. So stay tuned. My name is Brenda Padilla. I'm a specialist in cultural diversity. You can read more about me in the bio, in the description below this video. On this channel, we look at all aspects of cultural diversity with an aim for understanding it, managing it, and using it to squeeze all kinds of great benefits out, to enrich our lives, to become more creative, and to broaden our horizons. So let's dive in and find out, is it cultural or is it personal? So whenever I answer this question, I always show people this circle with 3 rings. And what we're going to do right now is look at that center ring. So in the center ring, I want you to imagine that we have our human nature there. That is you, and that's your human nature. It's kind of at your core. So by human nature, I mean, what are the aspects that we share with humans around the world? What are the universals? For example, all humans feel and express emotion. And there are certain emotions that cross-cultural psychologists are finding are actually shared by humans around the world. And that's a very interesting question to explore along with many other human universals. But we all share, we know that we all share commonalities with people from around the world. All right, so that's our first aspect. When we're approaching any particular situation with someone from another culture and we wonder, is it cultural, is it personal? Let's just first recognize that there are many things that we all share, and that person has that same core as we do, these same elements that are human universals. That's number 1. Now let's look at the second part. Okay, next ring. Let's move out a ring. And this second ring here, we're going to imagine that this is our personality. So this is the part that is unique to you in a certain way. It depends on many factors. Personality has a genetic element. It has much of your life experience has formed and shaped you. And there are all kinds of different areas that psychologists, cross-cultural psychologists are looking at in terms of personality. So yes, whatever you're dealing with another person, doesn't matter what culture they're from, there is this aspect of personality. So when I explain this and we're answering the question of is it personal or is it cultural, what I like to do is imagine that you have your human nature sort of expresses itself through your personality, all right? And now when we move to the third ring in the next part, we're going to see how your personality also has to move through an additional ring in who you are. Okay, the third ring. This outer ring, let's imagine that's the culture, all right? So you are who you are in that core human nature aspect of what you share. You have your personality, your human nature is coming through that personality, which is you and what is unique to you. And then the human nature and the personality is sort of expressing itself through your culture as well. And culture is a very important factor around the world. Culture is teaching us from the time we're born how to approach and solve a whole variety of universal human problems in the way that our culture deems the best ways to solve these problems. Our culture is instilling beliefs, a whole belief system about how the world works and a worldview. It's instilling values about what's important, what's more important and less important. In different cultures, we may value similar things, but in very different order. And your culture is also instilling a whole set of unspoken, unwritten rules that you take for granted that you've been learning since you were born. So whenever you're dealing with someone from another culture, both you and this other person are expressing yourselves and who you are through these different rings of influence that have shaped you and formed you. All right, so now that we have these 3 different aspects kind of laid out for us to imagine like this. In the final section, I'm going to show you or share with you expert advice about what to do when you face this question, is it cultural or is it personal, in a multicultural or multinational work environment. All right, so here's the big final bit here where I'm going to give you the answer to the question. And I want to give it to you in a very useful way so that you can apply it at work. And I'm sharing with you basically work from experts. And in particular, one of my favorites is Dr. Nancy J. Adler from McGill University in Montreal. And I really like this textbook, management textbook that is very accessible and enjoyable to read if you are working in a multinational, multicultural environment. It makes many things much more clear. And her advice that coincides with so many other experts' advice is that whenever you're dealing with someone of another culture and you have an issue, a problem, something bothering you or something confusing you, assume that culture plays an important role. When you make this assumption, you are going to depersonalize the situation in a way that is much more useful than if you immediately assumed that it was personality, and it's just the way this person is. Which, by the way, I want you to keep in mind that we are all functioning with what is known as the fundamental attribution error, which means that when I do something wrong, I tend to attribute it to outside factors beyond my control. I've had a bad day, I haven't slept well, or something that's sort of affecting me. But when someone else makes a mistake or does something wrong or does something that doesn't add up, I tend to assume and attribute that to personal inside characteristics like, that's a terrible person, or what are they thinking, or they're not honest, or I can't trust them. Well, that comes into play here when we're dealing with someone from another culture. We tend to over-attribute the problem to their personality and personal features or problems that they might have, and under-attribute the causes of the problem to potentially cultural influences, cultural reasons that could be very useful to understand and could lead us to a deeper understanding of each other, how we think, how we see the world, what it is we're trying to do in this particular situation, or how we're trying to solve a problem. So really, when we have this, whenever this pops up and we're kind of like wondering, is it personal, is it cultural, we're really facing this opportunity. An opportunity to open up conversations with this person from another culture and explore the real reasons behind what it is that they're doing, and to find out their thinking, and to, in that way, enrich our understanding, not just of this situation, but of a different culture as well, as I'm sure we'll learn a lot about that in the process. So I hope this has been useful to you. Please subscribe if you like this video, because I'm making many videos about cultural diversity from the point of view of the best ever cultural diversity, which is diversity that we understand, we know how to manage, and we know how to use it to leverage all kinds of great benefits. Thanks for joining me.